In the dark silence of space, galaxies had fallen one after another. Entire civilizations were erased, their great fleets reduced to ash and twisted metal. The enemy moved like a shadow, silent and unstoppable. No species, no empire, no alliance had ever stood against them for long. The universe began to whisper the same words: nothing can stop them. But then, far from the great empires, in a quiet corner of the stars, one small human ship appeared. A ship too small, too fragile, and too late, or so everyone thought. The ship was called Resolute. It was not built for war. It carried only a crew of 20 explorers and scientists, not soldiers. Yet fate had pushed them into the path of destruction. Inside the control room, the lights flickered as alarms filled the air. Captain Elena Ward gripped the railing beside her chair, her knuckles white. She had seen the enemy from a distance. Their ships did not shine with metal or energy. They looked like voids, black holes shaped into blades, drinking the light around them. "Report," she demanded. Lieutenant Harris, his face pale, stared at the radar. "They are coming straight for us, Captain. No deviation. No warning signals. Just straight." Elena felt the weight in her chest. The stories she had heard across comms were true. The enemy never spoke. The enemy never bargained. They only erased. Her crew looked at her with fear in their eyes, waiting. They were explorers, not warriors. She saw a young ensign's hands trembling at the console, and for a moment, she wanted to tell them to run, to hide. But there was nowhere left to hide. "Steady," she said softly. "If they want us, then they will have to take us." Her words gave no comfort, but they gave strength. The black ship came closer, gliding with terrifying silence. No energy signatures, no engine heat, nothing the sensors could truly read. Only the absence of stars where it moved. The crew felt it before they saw it, a pressure in their chests, a weight in their bones, as if the universe itself feared the intruder. Suddenly, the Resolute shuddered. The lights dimmed. "They're draining power," Harris shouted. "Systems dropping by 20%, 30, 40. Elena's mind raced. Every story said the same thing. Once the enemy drained your power, you were finished. They would strip the ship, the crew, even memory itself, leaving nothing but dust. But Elena refused to accept it. "Redirect auxiliary batteries. Focus shields forward," she ordered. "Shields won't hold against them," Harris muttered, but he obeyed. The black ship slowed, hovering in front of them now. It had no windows, no markings, no sign of life. Only a surface that seemed to drink in the universe. And then, without warning, a beam of darkness lanced forward. It wasn't light, but the absence of it, pure void striking against their shields. The ship screamed around them, metal groaning under the impossible force. The crew covered their ears, eyes wide with terror. "Shields at 60%. Harris cried. Elena stared at the darkness pressing against them. She thought of the worlds already lost. She thought of the children she had seen on refugee ships, eyes empty, homes gone. She thought of Earth, still untouched, still unaware that this horror was moving closer every day. "No," she whispered. "Not us. Not today." She turned to the science officer, Dr. Malik, who had been frozen in fear until now. "Doctor, you studied energy signatures from the Black Rift last month. Tell me, what did you find?" Malik's eyes widened. "It was unstable, Captain. Their energy absorbs everything, yes, but when it eats too much, it destabilizes. Like a fire without air." Elena's heart pounded. That was it. The enemy was powerful, yes, but not invincible. "Target the power drain with everything we have," she ordered. "Feed them too much, too fast. Overload them." The crew looked at her in shock. "That will burn us too." Harris protested. "Better to burn fighting," Elena said, her voice steady, "than to fade like the rest." There was silence. Then, one by one, her crew obeyed. The Resolute poured every joule of energy forward. Weapons, engines, life support, everything into one surge. The enemy ship drank it greedily, its surface rippling as if satisfied. And then, it shuddered. For the first time in history, the black vessel trembled. Its surface flickered, like cracks in darkness itself. A deep, unnatural sound echoed across the comms. Not speech, but a scream of something that had never known pain before. The crew stared in awe. "It's working," Malik shouted. "Captain, it's destabilizing." Elena gritted her teeth. "Hold nothing back. Give them everything." The Resolute glowed, its hull burning hot from the overload. Systems shut down one after another, but the surge grew brighter, until the void ship twisted violently, breaking apart. And then, in a flash of impossible light, the black ship collapsed into itself, vanishing like smoke. Silence filled the control room. The crew sat frozen, unable to believe what they had seen. Harris whispered, We destroyed it." Elena did not smile. She only looked out the window at the empty stars where the enemy had been. "No," she said quietly. "We survived it. And now, they know we can fight back." Far beyond their sensors, in the endless black, something stirred. The enemy had felt their loss. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the shadows turned their gaze on humanity. The Resolute drifted in silence after the impossible battle. Systems were broken, power was low, and the crew sat in stunned disbelief. They had survived when no one else had. But survival did not feel like victory. Captain Elena Ward stood by the window, staring at the stars. The black ship was gone, erased by its own hunger, but she knew the truth. This was only the beginning. Behind her, Harris ran his hands over dead consoles. "Engines are fried, Captain. Navigation is offline. Shields, gone. We are floating." Dr. Malik sat hunched over a datapad, sweat dripping from his forehead. "I recorded everything," he said in a shaky voice. "Every second. Their energy, the collapse, the scream. If we can get this back to Earth, we may have a weapon." Elena turned sharply. "If we get back, don't forget where we are. No allies. No reinforcements." The crew fell silent. The galaxy around them was hostile now, more than ever. Because somewhere out there, the enemy was aware. One ship had fallen. And the rest would come. Suddenly, the radar console flickered back to life, sparking and smoking. Ensign Vera, the youngest on the crew, leaned forward with wide eyes. "Captain, multiple signatures inbound." The words froze every soul in the control room. "How many?" Elena asked. Vera swallowed. "Not ships. Not like before. Signals. Faint. Could be survivors." The crew exchanged looks. Survivors. Out here. It seemed impossible. "Put them on screen," Elena ordered. Static filled the display, then cleared into shaky images. The comms were weak, fractured, but voices pushed through. "Anyone, please respond. They are gone. The shadows destroyed us. If you can hear, do not, repeat, do not draw their attention." The feed cut in and out, breaking into silence again. Elena clenched her jaw. Survivors meant information. Survivors meant proof. But it also meant danger. If the enemy was hunting them, then the Resolute might not be alone for long. Harris leaned closer to her. "Captain, with respect, we can't go after them. We barely survived one ship. If more come, we're finished." Malik shook his head. "No. We need them. We need to know what they've seen. We can't fight alone. Humanity cannot fight alone." Elena's eyes narrowed. She hated choices like this. But command was not about comfort. It was about survival of the many, not the few. "Set a course," she said finally. "Bring us to the nearest signal." The engines groaned as Vera coaxed them back to life, sputtering with every push. The ship moved slowly, limping through the stars, but it moved. Minutes passed in tense silence. Every flicker of light outside felt like a trap, every shadow a lurking enemy. At last, they saw it, a ruined station, broken in half, drifting among debris. Fires still burned along its shattered hull. The survivors' signal came from within. "Life signs detected," Vera whispered. "At least 40. The Resolute locked onto the wreck and docked carefully. The metal moaned as the airlocks connected. Elena pulled on her suit. "Harris, Vera, Malik, you're with me. The rest hold position. If the enemy comes, you run." "Run where?" someone asked bitterly. "Anywhere but here," Elena answered and stepped into the dark. The wreck smelled of smoke and death. The corridors were twisted, scorched by weapons unknown. They moved slowly, their lights cutting through the silence. And then, a movement. Figures appeared at the end of the corridor, gaunt, exhausted, but alive. A tall alien with gray skin and deep black eyes stepped forward, hands raised in peace. His voice was rough. "You are human?" Elena nodded. "We are. Who are you?" "I am Karan, last commander of the Valen fleet. Or what is left of it." His eyes scanned them, lingering on Elena's badge. You destroyed one of them." The survivors whispered among themselves, their faces filled with disbelief and something else, hope. Karan stepped closer. "We saw the explosion. No species has ever done this. You do not understand what you have done. They will come now. All of them." Elena kept her voice steady. "Then we'll be ready." Karan gave a bitter laugh. "Ready? Captain, they have burned empires greater than yours to nothing. They do not stop. They do not sleep. And when they lose one ship, they answer with 1,000. The survivors bowed their heads. Fear ran through the corridor like ice. But Elena did not lower her eyes. She met Karan's gaze, unflinching. "Then let them come," she said. "Because if they can bleed, we can kill them. And humanity does not run." The corridor fell silent. Even the survivors stared at her with something new, respect. Malik whispered, "Captain," but Elena lifted her hand for silence. Far away, through the broken windows of the wreck, the stars shifted. One by one, points of light were swallowed by darkness. Not explosions. Not debris. But ships. Dozens of them. Hundreds. The crew and survivors watched in horror as the black fleet moved into view, vast and endless, blotting out the stars. Harris's voice cracked. "Captain, they've found us." The shadows had come. And this time, there was no running. The wrecked station shook as the shadows appeared. Through shattered windows, the crew of the Resolute and the survivors watched in silence. A fleet of black ships filled the stars, countless and endless, each one a blade of darkness moving without sound. No one spoke. Even breathing felt too loud. Karan, the alien commander, whispered, "This is the end. They do not come in small numbers. When they hunt, they come as one." Elena's jaw tightened. Her crew stood behind her, pale and afraid, but waiting for her word. The survivors bowed their heads as if already defeated. "No," Elena said firmly. Her voice cut through the fear like steel. "We are not finished yet." Harris stared at her in disbelief. "Captain, look at them. We can't even count how many. One ship nearly killed us. A fleet this size." Elena turned to him, her eyes cold and steady. "A fleet this size has never met humans before." The survivors exchanged uneasy glances. Hope was a dangerous thing, and many of them had forgotten how to feel it. "Dr. Malik," Elena said quickly, "the overload we used, it worked once. Could we scale it up?" Malik hesitated, rubbing his temples. "In theory, yes. But we don't have enough power on the Resolute. Not even close." Elena looked at Karan. "Your station, does it still have a core?" Karan frowned. "Damaged, unstable. It will not hold." "Good," Elena replied. Because we don't need it to hold. We need it to explode. The corridor went silent. You want to detonate the station? Harris asked, his voice almost breaking. Elena nodded. Not just detonate. Overload the core, feed it into them. One ship fell to our surge. What happens when they swallow the heart of a station? Karan's black eyes widened. For the first time, he seemed unsure. It might work. Or it might burn us all. Elena's lips curved into a grim smile. Either way, we don't die quietly. The plan was madness. Everyone knew it. But madness was all they had left. The survivors led them deeper into the station, where the ruined power core pulsed weakly, cracks running along its surface. Sparks leapt into the air. The whole place smelled of ozone and burning metal. Malik scanned the core with trembling hands. It's unstable. If we push it even slightly, it will cascade out of control. Exactly what we want, Elena said. They worked fast. The crew of the Resolute connected power lines, rerouted conduits, and patched together whatever systems still functioned. The survivors helped, their hopeless eyes now carrying a flicker of purpose. Outside, the shadows moved closer. The Black Fleet circled like predators, waiting for the final strike. Alarms rang through the wreck. Vera shouted. They're scanning us, Captain. They know we're here. Elena turned to the survivors. You all need to make a choice. Stay and fight, or run. But if you run, know this, there is nowhere left to hide. Karan raised his chin. The Valen do not run. He looked back at his people. Slowly, one by one, the survivors nodded. Fear was still in their eyes, but now it stood beside courage. The countdown began. The core glowed brighter as Malik forced more energy into it, the lights around them flickering violently. The walls trembled as the station strained against its own power. Then, with a sound like thunder, the shadows attacked. Beams of void energy cut through the wreck, tearing metal like paper. Air rushed out into space as sections of the station collapsed. Survivors screamed, holding on to railings as emergency shields struggled to hold. Captain! Harris shouted. They're breaking through. Elena barked back. Hold the line. Keep them busy. The crew fired every weapon the wreck had left. Pulse cannons spat fire into the dark, explosions lighting the void. For the first time, the black ships did not glide untouched. A few staggered under the blasts, slowed but not destroyed. They're reacting. Malik cried. The overload is building. 30 seconds. Elena turned to her team. Back to the Resolute. Now. They ran through crumbling corridors, debris falling around them. Survivors carried the wounded, dragging them through the chaos. The shadows were inside now, shapes moving through the wreck like liquid night. They did not walk. They flowed, like living darkness. One surged forward, striking down a survivor with a single touch, leaving only ash behind. Move! Elena shouted, firing her sidearm uselessly into the black. The bullets vanished into the void. Vera screamed as another shadow lunged, but Karan leapt between her and death, driving a glowing blade into the creature. The shadow shrieked, a sound that chilled blood, and dissolved into smoke. They can be hurt. Karan roared. The survivors rallied, fighting with blades, guns, and raw fury. For every one that fell, another shadow came, endless and merciless. But the humans in Valen pushed forward together, step by step, toward the airlock. Finally, they stumbled into the Resolute. The doors sealed, engines roaring to life. Malik's voice shook as he shouted. 5 seconds. Through the windows, the station glowed like a dying star. The Black Fleet swarmed it, thousands of ships pressing closer, unaware of the trap. Then the core collapsed. A light brighter than suns tore across space. The station exploded, a wave of raw energy surging outward, devouring everything in its path. The shadows drank it greedily, but it was too much, too fast. One by one, their ships flickered, cracked, and fell apart. The fleet screamed as it dissolved into fire. The Resolute shook violently, alarms blaring, but the shields held just enough. When the light faded, silence returned. Outside, the Black Fleet was gone. Only drifting debris remained. The survivors stared in shock. For the first time in living memory, the shadows had been broken in numbers. Coron looked at Elena with awe. You, humans, you are different. You are fire where others are ash. Elena's face was pale, her body trembling, but her eyes burned with iron. No. We are not fire. We are the spark. And now, the galaxy knows we can fight back. But even as she spoke, far beyond the ruined battlefield, deeper in the void, something stirred. The true masters of the shadows had felt the loss. And they were coming. The battlefield was quiet. Too quiet. The Resolute floated among the wreckage of the destroyed station, its hull scorched and trembling. Inside, the crew and survivors gathered in silence, their faces pale from what they had witnessed. For the first time in centuries, the shadows had been broken. But no one was celebrating. Elena Ward stood in the center of the control room, staring at the fractured screens. Debris drifted outside the window, glowing faintly against the stars. Her body was tired, every bone aching, but her mind refused to rest. "They'll come again," she whispered. Harris turned from the console. "Captain, we barely survived this. If more of them arrive, we don't stand a chance." "They will arrive," Coron interrupted, his deep voice cutting through the air. His black eyes burned with grim certainty. "The shadows are not a fleet. They are a tide. You push it back for a moment, but the ocean always returns." The survivors muttered quietly, fear creeping back into their voices. Malik shook his head. "We can't keep doing this alone. Humanity can't stand against them without help. If Earth knew, if the colonies knew." Elena raised a hand to silence him. "Earth doesn't believe in ghosts, Doctor. By the time they take this threat seriously, the shadows will be at our doorstep." For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of damaged engines filled the silence. Then Vera said softly, "So what do we do?" Elena turned slowly, her eyes sweeping over her crew, the survivors, and finally Coron. Her voice was calm but sharp as a blade. "We build something they cannot ignore. We build an alliance. Humanity, Valen, anyone who still draws breath. The shadows may be the tide, but tides can be broken when every rock stands together." The survivors exchanged uncertain looks. Coron frowned, considering her words. "You believe others will join? The shadows have broken countless empires. Why would any species believe humans can succeed where greater powers failed?" Elena stepped closer to him. "Because we did what no one else has done. We made them bleed. That is all anyone needs to see." Her words struck like fire. Even Harris, who had been doubtful moments before, looked at her with a spark of pride. Malik nodded eagerly. "If we can transmit the data, the recordings of the collapse, the galaxy will see. They'll know it's possible." But before hope could grow too strong, alarms blared. The control room bathed in red light. Vera shouted, "Incoming!" Multiple signatures. The crew froze, fear washing over them like cold water. "Not shadows," Vera added quickly, scanning the signals. "Different configuration. Ships, damaged. Engines weak. Not hostile." Elena's eyes narrowed. On screen. The display flickered, revealing a ragged fleet of alien ships. Hulls scorched, weapons destroyed, but alive. Their signals carried desperation. "This is the Ashari Protectorate, we seek safe harbor. If anyone can hear. We are hunted. We saw the shadows fall. How did you do it?" Gasps filled the control room. "They saw us," Malik whispered. "They saw everything." Coron stepped forward, his expression hard to read. "The galaxy is watching. Already, the fire spreads." The Resolute hailed the newcomers, guiding them toward the wreckage. The alien fleet moved slowly, their broken ships barely holding together. Survivors poured across transmissions, voices of dozens of species Elena had never seen. Some begged for help. Some offered alliance. Some only wanted to know one thing: how did the humans do it? Elena spoke to them all with the same iron voice. We survived because we refused to bow. If you want to live, stand with us. If you want freedom, fight with us. The shadows can be broken, but only together. Her words echoed across the comms, carried into the hearts of strangers. For the first time in generations, hope began to spread. But hope was fragile. That night, as the crew rested in shifts, Elena stood alone at the window. Stars glittered quietly beyond the wreckage, but she could not find comfort in their beauty. She knew the truth: the shadows had not been defeated. They had only been angered. Karan joined her, his tall form casting a long shadow in the dim light. You speak like a warrior, Captain. But you are not only a warrior. You are a spark. Sparks can ignite flames, or burn themselves out. Elena didn't look at him. I don't care if I burn, as long as the fire spreads. Karan studied her for a moment, then gave a slow nod. Then perhaps humanity is the ally my people always prayed for. Before Elena could answer, Vera's voice came over the comms, sharp with fear. Captain. Long-range scans, something massive is moving in the dark. Bigger than anything we've seen before. Elena's heart clenched. She turned toward the main screen as the image sharpened. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't even a ship. It was something larger. Something ancient. A shape that blotted out whole constellations as it drifted through the void. Malik's voice cracked in terror. Dear God, if that's their command vessel. Elena's eyes narrowed. Fear coiled in her chest, but she stood tall. Then we'll face it, she said. And this time, we won't face it alone. The image on the screen filled the control room with silence. The object drifting through space was not like the smaller shadow ships they had fought. It was vast, stretching across the stars like a moving continent. Its surface was blacker than the void itself, shifting with shapes that looked alive. Entire fleets could have hidden within its body, and still, there would have been room for more. Nobody spoke at first. Even the sound of breathing felt wrong in its presence. Finally, Malik whispered, "That's not a ship, it's a world." Karan shook his head slowly. Not a world. A hive. That is their heart, their command, their home. The true face of the shadows. Fear spread like fire among the survivors. Some whispered prayers, others wept quietly. On the comms, voices from the damaged alien ships cried out, demanding answers. Is it coming here? How do we fight that? There is no way to win. Elena Ward stood still, her eyes fixed on the screen. Every part of her body screamed to feel fear, but she refused. She turned and faced them all, her voice sharp and steady. Listen to me. Yes, it is massive. Yes, it is stronger than anything we have faced. But it is not unstoppable. Nothing is. We proved that already. Her words steadied some, but Harris shook his head. Captain, this isn't one ship. It's thousands, maybe millions, fused into one. Even if we had 100 Resolutes, we couldn't scratch it. Malik straightened suddenly. Not alone. But what if we use the wreckage? Everyone turned toward him. His hands trembled as he explained. The explosion that destroyed the fleet, it worked because we overloaded unstable energy. The battlefield here is full of wrecks. Hundreds of broken cores, broken reactors. If we link them together, if we create a chain reaction. Karan's black eyes widened. A firestorm across space. Malik nodded. Exactly. Not one spark, but 1,000. Enough to hurt even that. Harris muttered. Enough to kill us all too. Elena didn't flinch. Then we make sure we're not here when it goes off. The plan was dangerous, impossible even, but it was all they had. The crews worked without rest. Human engineers from the Resolute guided alien survivors, teaching them how to link conduits and reroute power. Quran's warriors provided protection, guarding against any smaller shadow scouts that slipped too close. It was chaos, but it was unity. For the first time in living memory, species that had once ignored each other now fought side by side. They shared food, tools, even laughter in rare moments of calm. The survivors began to see Elena not as a human captain, but as something greater, a leader who refused to bend. Still, the hive moved closer. Each day it swallowed more starlight, blotting constellations from the sky. The pressure of its presence weighed on every heart. One night, Vera sat in the control room, her young face pale in the dim glow. She whispered, "Captain, what if this doesn't work? What if the firestorm only makes them stronger?" Elena sat beside her. For a moment, she looked not like a captain but simply a tired woman carrying too much. But her eyes stayed fierce. "Then we try again," Elena said softly. "And again. Until they learn fear. That's what makes us different. We don't stop." Vera nodded slowly, some of the fear leaving her. At last, the day came. The trap was ready. Wreckage across the battlefield glowed faintly with unstable power, connected by fragile lines of energy. Each broken core was a bomb waiting to ignite. Elena stood before the gathered crews, humans and aliens alike. Her voice carried across comms to every ship. "Today, we do what no one thought possible. Today, we make the shadows bleed again. You may think of yourselves as survivors, but you are more than that. You are soldiers now, whether you chose it or not. And today, you will show the galaxy that we are not prey. We are the fire." The words spread like lightning. Across damaged ships, across weary hearts, something rose that had not been felt in years: hope. The hive stirred. Its surface shifted, releasing waves of black ships like insects from a nest. They poured into the battlefield, swarming toward the survivors. "Here they come," Harris muttered, gripping the console. Elena raised her hand. "Hold, hold." The swarm closed in. Weapons fired. Explosions ripped through the void as alien ships and the Resolute fought desperately, buying time. "Now!" Elena shouted. Malik triggered the sequence. The first wreck exploded, a brilliant flash of light tearing through the dark. The blast jumped to the next, then the next, until the entire graveyard of ships ignited in a chain reaction. The void lit up like a second sun. Shadow vessels screamed as the firestorm tore through them, thousands collapsing into dust. The wave surged outward, slamming into the hive itself. For the first time, the monstrous shape faltered. Its surface cracked, rippling like broken glass. A deep vibration echoed across space, a sound so powerful it rattled bones. The hive had been wounded. The control room erupted in cheers, survivors shouting with joy and disbelief. But Helena did not cheer. She watched the hive carefully, her gut heavy with dread. Because the cracks on its surface did not stay. Slowly, they closed, knitting together as if the wounds were nothing. The vibration faded, replaced by silence. Koran's voice was grave. "You hurt it. But you did not kill it." The cheers died quickly. Elena's fists clenched. "Then we'll find another way. If it can heal, it can still be broken." On the screen, the hive turned slowly toward them. And for the first time, its surface opened. A vast chasm split across its body, glowing with a sickly light. From within, something began to emerge. Not a ship. Not a swarm. A single creature. Larger than mountains, made of living shadow, with wings that stretched across the stars. The hive had released its guardian. The creature unfolded from the hive like a nightmare given form. Its wings spread wider than cities, each feather a blade of shadow sharper than steel. Its body was twisted and alive, pulsing with the same void energy that had destroyed countless worlds. Eyes like burning stars opened across its face, staring into the souls of every living being that dared to watch. For a moment, No one spoke. No one even breathed. Malik whispered the thought that poisoned every heart. We didn't fight a fleet. We didn't fight a hive. All this time, we were only fighting its guardians. And this is something else entirely. The survivors on the comms cried out in panic. Some begged to flee. Some began to pray. Others simply screamed. Elena Ward stood unmoving at the center of the control room. Her fists clenched against the railing. She forced herself to breathe, to think. "Quiet," she barked. Her voice cut through the fear like a blade. The comms fell silent. Dozens of alien ships, hundreds of survivors, all looked to one human woman. Elena's voice was calm, iron against the storm. "Listen. This thing wants fear. It feeds on it. But fear will not save us. Courage will. We've already proved the shadows can be hurt. We'll prove it again." Harris turned to her, his face pale. "Captain, with respect, we don't have enough firepower. Even the firestorm barely scratched the hive. This thing is built to kill fleets. One blow, and we're finished." Elena looked at Malik. "Options." Malik's fingers flew across the console, scanning the creature's energy. His face paled as he read the data. Its body is pure void matter. Weapons will pass through it. But the wings are different. They stabilize it, like anchors in the fabric of space. If we can cut them, it will lose balance. It might collapse. Karan bared his teeth. Cut the wings of the beast. Simple in words. Impossible in battle. Elena didn't blink. Then impossible is what we do. The orders spread fast. The Alliance ships, broken and scarred, prepared for battle once more. Pilots checked weapons, engineers rerouted power, warriors sharpened blades that had not seen hope in centuries. The shadow creature spread its wings wide, and then, with a sound like the tearing of the universe, it moved. The first wave was pure devastation. A single beat of its wings sent a storm of void across space. Ships shattered instantly, torn apart like paper. Screams filled the comms as survivors vanished in flashes of fire. Shields collapsing. Vera cried. "We can't take another hit like that." Elena's voice cut through the chaos. "All ships, spread formation. Do not meet its wings head-on." The fleet scattered, dodging as the creature struck again. Its massive claws lashed out, tearing through wreckage like it was nothing. Every movement was destruction. Every sound was terror. But the survivors did not run. Not this time. Alien ships darted forward, firing plasma beams and missiles at the wings. The Resolute fired its cannons until the barrels glowed red. Explosions lit the void, forcing the creature to twist and roar in fury. For the first time, the Galaxy's forgotten survivors fought together, and the shadows felt resistance. "Target the right wing joint," Malik shouted. "It's weaker there." Elena gritted her teeth. "All ships, focus fire." The fleet obeyed. Dozens of beams and missiles converged on the right wing. The creature screamed, a sound so loud it rattled every hull, but the attacks struck true. The wing flickered, its shadow feathers dissolving under the onslaught. "It's working," Vera cried. The creature thrashed violently, sending shockwaves through space. Ships were torn apart, crushed in its fury, but the Alliance held. The right wing cracked, splintering into fragments of void that drifted away like smoke. The beast faltered, its movements uneven. For the first time, it looked vulnerable. "Now!" Elena shouted. "While it's off balance." The fleet surged forward, striking with everything they had left. Cannons roared, torpedoes screamed through the dark, alien warships rammed into the monster's body in suicidal strikes. The left wing shuddered under the assault. Cracks spread like lightning across its surface. The creature roared again, a sound of rage and pain. And then, the second wing shattered. The shadow beast convulsed, twisting violently as its body lost stability. Its massive form rippled, folding in on itself. Space itself bent around it as it collapsed, its roar echoing like thunder across the stars. For a moment, silence. Then, the impossible happened. The beast was gone. The survivors erupted in cheers. Voices filled the comms with joy, disbelief, and hope. "We did it. It's dead. By the stars, we killed it." Even Harris let out a shaky laugh, his hands trembling. "I don't believe it. We actually killed it." But Helena did not cheer. She stared at the space where the beast had fallen. Her voice was quiet, almost too soft to hear. "No. Not dead. Look." The screen flickered, showing the hive. The massive structure had not moved during the battle. But now, cracks spread across its surface. From within, more shapes began to stir. Malik's face drained of color. The beast was only one. There are more. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. The cheers died instantly. Elena's jaw tightened. Her voice was steel. "Then we're not done. This was only the beginning." The hive cracked like a dying world. From inside, shapes moved, more wings, more shadows, more nightmares waiting to rise. The survivors stared in horror as the truth became clear. The creature they had fought so hard to kill was not the end. It was only the first guardian. Malik's voice trembled. "There's no way. We can't fight them all. Not hundreds." Harris slammed a fist against the console. "We'll die before we even reload our weapons. It's over." Elena Ward did not move. Her eyes locked on the screen. She had seen fear, despair, even surrender in the faces of her crew before. But now she saw something else too: defiance. Koran spoke first, his alien voice rumbling across the comms. "You humans fight like fire in the storm. If we die here, let it be in flames, not silence." Another voice cut in, one of the surviving alien captains. "We have run for centuries. We have hidden. We have begged the stars for mercy. Today, because of humans, we saw the impossible, a shadow that bleeds. A shadow that falls. If we must die, then let us die as warriors." The comms filled with voices. Broken, tired, half-destroyed ships pledged their last strength. They were ready. Not because they thought they would win, but because they refused to kneel. Elena felt the fire burn inside her chest. She stood tall, her voice clear, calm, and strong. "Then listen well. We are outnumbered. We are outgunned. But we are not out of choices. That hive, it is not just a nest. It is a heart. If we cut the heart, the body dies. Every shadow, every monster, every nightmare tied to it will fall." Vera's eyes widened. "You mean, destroy the hive itself?" "Yes," Elena said simply. "We end this at the source." Harris swallowed hard. "That thing is the size of a planet. We don't have the weapons to break it." Malik's hands shook as he studied the readings. Then slowly, he looked up, his voice filled with grim resolve. "Maybe we do. Captain, the reactor. If we overload it, the Resolute becomes a star. The detonation would be enough to tear the hive apart." The room went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The ship would not survive. Neither would they. Koran broke the silence with a snarl. "A good death. One that will echo across galaxies." Harris shook his head, his face pale. "No. There has to be another way. There has to be." Elena's voice was steady. "Sometimes, there isn't. Sometimes survival is not the victory. Sometimes the victory is making sure the darkness never wins." Her crew stared at her. They had followed her through fire, through terror, through impossible odds. And now, in this final moment, not one turned away. "Ready the core," Elena ordered. The alarms rang out. Deep in the ship's heart, the reactor began to overload. Lights flickered. Energy surged. The Resolute groaned as if it already knew its fate. Outside, the shadows stirred. More wings spread. More voices screamed in the void. The hive was awakening. All ships, Elena said on the open channel. Fall back. Stay clear of the blast zone. This fight ends with us. The comms erupted in protest. No, Captain. Not without you. We fight together. We will not abandon you. But Elena's voice cut through the storm. Listen to me. You don't need to save us. You need to survive. Someone must live to tell the galaxy what happened here. Someone must carry the fire forward. That is your duty now. The voices went quiet. One by one, the surviving ships pulled back, broken and bleeding, but alive. They knew what she said was true. Inside the Resolute, the crew prepared for the end. Harris sat at the helm, his hands steady. Vera whispered a prayer under her breath. Malik worked the reactor controls, his face pale but determined. Karan stood tall, his blade drawn, as if ready to meet the darkness face to face. Elena stood at the command deck, her eyes locked on the hive. She did not look afraid. She looked fierce. The hive split open, and the shadows poured out. Hundreds of wings, claws, and burning eyes rushed toward them. The Resolute surged forward, its engines screaming as it charged straight into the heart of the swarm. The ship shook under the assault, metal tearing, alarms wailing, but it did not stop. It flew like a spear of light into the endless dark. Malik's voice whispered through the comms. Core is at maximum. Any second now. Elena gave one last order. Her voice was calm, proud, and unbroken. Remember this day. Remember humanity. We were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. But when the darkness came, we stood. And we did not break. The reactor ignited. A light brighter than suns erupted, tearing through the void. The Resolute became a star, its explosion shaking the hive to its core. Shadows screamed as the fire ripped them apart. The hive cracked, shattered, and collapsed, burning into nothingness. And then, silence. The survivors, far on the edge of the blast zone, watched as the hive fell. The monsters were gone. The darkness was gone. Only light remained. In the silence that followed, no one spoke. They simply stared, knowing they had witnessed the impossible. One alien captain whispered, almost in awe. One human ship, against eternity. And eternity lost. The galaxy would never forget.